What are you picking up? Mankind must put an end to war. A war will put an end to mankind.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Well, I'm not drunk. I learned everything I got.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person.
Hello, Wisconsin political, happy people, sad people, excited people.
You don't sound very excited.
I don't know how I feel, so we're definitely going to get into that. So this is the Blind Partisan Show podcast, and I'm here. I'm Elliot.
I'm sorry.
I'm here with Jacob, who I told him I'd be wearing my blue sweatshirt, and I'd have my beautiful red hair, and he decided to copy me.
He's just being a hater.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's jump right into it. Today is Wednesday after Election Day. I don't know how quickly this will be out there, but we're going to give a recap of our thoughts on the election that happened last night and into the morning.
And yeah, we are recording this on Wednesday, early afternoon. So there are actually some elections still like not finalized yet.
Right.
You know, especially on the West Coast. So things might change slightly, but pretty much everything's called.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Well, very interesting night, I'd say. Yeah.
People are acting so surprised, and I have to say I'm not. Like, I'm really not surprised. Like, maybe the amount, the delta, right, of the governor race, and we'll circle back on that. But the other stuff, I wasn't surprised at all.
I
had zero surprise. If I was asked to like put money down on the way the election I would. I think every one of the races, I think I would have picked this.
I think looking at it with a macro lens,
yeah,
it's typical. But looking at it with a micro lens, at specific races and, specific outcomes of, especially the things people really aren't paying attention to,
yeah,
it's way more interesting.
Yeah, and you brought a couple of those up before we start recording. So you said you wanted to jump into the House and the Senate first.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But first, did you vote?
Was that yesterday? Of course I voted. I tell everybody. I usually take a picture of my ballot
so
that the Attorney General can throw me in prison.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's illegal, man.
That should change.
Yeah, that should change
because it's insane,
especially with all this electronic voting and stuff going on. Like people are like, this is clearly wrong. Can I take a picture of the machines bugging?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean,
we don't do that here.
Right.
We have paper ballots here in Wisconsin, though they're electronically counted.
Yes.
Which I think is probably the best compromise, as long as you keep the paper ballots for audits.
How much paper do you think Amazon keeps of their records?
Oh, I don't know.
Or Apple?
Well, would you rather
or Google or Walmart? How much paper do you think they keep?
I don't know, man.
Almost none. There's no paper.
Okay, but you agree paper ballots are fine?
No. It's terrible. It's ridiculous that I have to walk into a church and wait in line behind a bunch of gray-haired people to be able to write my circle in.
My polling place got moved, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
That just goes to show you, I'm a pretty.
There was something about that too, because I'm in Ward 45, I think, and they're like, "Are you in Ward 45 or 40?" I'm like, "I don't know, this one." So apparently there was another one that was moved there temporarily or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, so mine got moved, and that's point. I just want to say, I'm a pretty politically connected person, right? Mm-hmm. And I had no idea. So imagine, common folks.
But you're also somebody who doesn't drive.
That is true.
So changing the polling place is terrible.
Yeah.
And again, that is why it is essential for us to have online voting. And that's a bipartisan thing. There are plenty of people that are disabled regardless of party, right?
At the very least, better absentee ballots and, pre-voting and all that. We can support
whatever.
All that.
That's all fine. This is like technology from the 1800s. Let's modernize this a little bit.
All right, so the House.
Yeah.
Typical?
That was completely as expected.
Yeah.
100%. Like I don't know that I would have predicted the exact number, but pretty darn close. I mean, I expected that. It wasn't going to be a blue wave.
We saw, it's not a blue ripple, as some people like.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
call
I
it.
heard the ripple.
It's not a blue tsunami.
I don't know who came up with the ripple, but that's pretty good.
I think
Yeah.
it's a blue wave, but a wave can be
Exactly.
just a few feet.
It's exactly as to be expected, except for the fact that the economy's doing well, and when the economy's doing well, the sitting president, their party usually gains a few seats.
Right.
So but we knew that wasn't the case.
What was interesting is a lot of the broadcast talked about, the exit polls, which, first of all, I've never been exit polled in my life. I've never seen someone doing exit
No,
polling. Have you?
me neither.
No. But pointed out that this vote
Which leads me to believe that those results could be completely made up.
the two questions were, how do you think the economy is doing?
Right.
And, do you think we're headed in the right direction as a country? And pretty much every election beforehand, those questions have been asked. They've been linked, right? Where if you say the economy's good, you say we're in the right direction.
Yeah.
And this is different. This time around it was economy's doing pretty great,
Right.
but we're going in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the answer I would give. I mean, nobody's asking my opinion, but I'm going to give it to you anyway.
I'll ask your opinion.
I mean,
What's your opinion, Elliot?
I live in the United States of America, the greatest country that has ever existed on planet Earth, at the greatest time that has ever happened on planet Earth. And can we always improve things slightly? Sure. Can I always lose another pound? No, not really. At some point, things are pretty awesome, and you have to kind of just maintain. So, yeah, there's little things around the edges, but for the most part, disagreeing with Trump notwithstanding on many things, but there's a few things I agree with him on. Things are great. Things are great.
In some ways.
And we're so, I'm as negative as anybody. I'll post negative things all the time, but if you ask me, are we going in the wrong direction? No.
All right. So House races were pretty typical, though.
Yeah.
Right?
I really have nothing to say. They talked on and on and on about it last night.
Yeah, that's the problem. We both, I'm sure, watched a bunch of the, national news organizations talking about this stuff, and they focus so much on the Senate and the House, and those were the least exciting races. With, the exceptions of the ones that, everyone was talking about. For example, nice transition into the Senate. In the Senate, the race everyone was watching out of curiosity was the Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke race. Yeah. Just because it was such a publicly known battle all throughout the country. Everyone was watching it. Yeah. And Ted Cruz won. But it's Texas,
Yeah. On a federal basis, they're the same. Which one's gonna shut down all the foreign wars? Neither. Which one is going to attack the national debt? Neither. They're the same.
So that was a race.
Yeah.
It was surprising the Democrats did lose a few spots, but not surprising because almost all the seats that were up for election were Democrat seats. The interesting thing is, the Democrats were on offense with the House, but they were very much on defense with the Senate, right?
Hard to say. I mean, I don't know.
I think that's fair.
So, like, when you talk about House and Senate races, we try to, look at it on a macro level, but all of the races are individual. Right? So when I look at our race, I voted for Tammy Baldwin. This is the first time I've ever voted for a Democrat.
Gasp!
And the reason for that is there was no other choice on the ballot. Both choices were deplorable. And that I totally believe that. Tammy Baldwin in pushing for TV rules about football games, focus on something important, lady. And Vukmir, abortion, shut up.
Right.
I couldn't handle either of them. They're both terrible.
So I agree with that, we have this mentality of looking at it just as a bunch of graphics of seats, right? Mm-hmm. And, which ones are blue, which ones are red. Yep. But that's not the important thing. But it is interesting to note because, with how partisan our politics have become, the majority is important.
Right.
And what I found really interesting was I was watching, one of the broadcasts I watched was CBS, and they talked about how, the Democrats, their situation in the Senate with the majority of the seats being up for election or theirs is really unique and doesn't happen very often. Typically it's a even or so mix.
Yeah.
But the person also
But we
pointed
keep having
out,
these waves.
Yeah.
So
the
like,
person also pointed out that next time around in 2020, the reverse is going to
yeah,
happen.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not, something I want to talk about for hours, but
No, I guess the only thing that I would say with Congress at all is there are in our own state too. I mean, if this wasn't a change, it would have been the same either way because they're both female, but there were a lot more women,
there were a lot more women.
and I think that's great. And there
Yeah.
were a lot more minority women, even better. Like I think that's great. Not because minority women are going to do a better job, not because women are going to do a better job than men, but if the average person feels like there are people that are like them representing them in some fashion, even if they're on the other side of the country, that is a positive thing. And
Yeah.
we need more of that.
Yeah, I agree. So the race I was most interested in following were governor's races.
Yeah.
Because as of pretty much the past, 10 years or so, governor's races in this country have been dominated by Republicans. Right? It was something like 40 or so, 38 to 40 of our governors were Republican.
Something like that.
Yeah. Quite a big margin.
Yeah.
And we saw the numbers for the first time, really, since that big push in like 2010 or so with the Koch brothers and whatnot, really helping push Republicans to take those seats.
Yeah.
Kind of a bounce back.
A little bit. But
What is it, like 7 different governors' mansions flipped
They
the
flip?
Democrat?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you count ours.
Including ours.
Which I think we have to, which
Yeah.
you're going to touch on, I'm sure. But interestingly, though, Florida did not flip, but it was close.
It was close.
So Florida and Wisconsin demonstrated clearly that we are the most purple,
Yeah. We are the battleground
consistently
states, always.
divided, not flip-flopping, divided.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some states that flip-flop, and it depends on the personality, which I think is better. I think you should vote for the
There are some
candidate,
states-
not the color. Oh, Jacob. I'm glad that happened to you once instead of
Yeah.
me.
Thanks, technology.
Yep, I'm on silent. Yay.
So that totally made me lose my
Florida.
thought. So I think there were states this election that showed some big flips.
Yeah.
Kansas was a big state that flipped. Kansas flipped from being very red to very blue.
Yeah.
Indiana, despite
I saw
typically
Ann Coulter posted something like "Kansas, you're dead to me."
right,
I thought that was great.
despite Indiana typically being a little Republican,
Yeah.
they went very Republican, like extreme Republican this time around.
Yeah.
Why do you think some states, like even just looking at the Midwest, which we love to group the Midwest as this like Rust Belt area of old dead manufacturing, and we had some states that went super hard right, super hard left, and some that were stuck in the middle like us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's a few reasons. So, as you move east, I think that there's more like East Coast influence. So, like Ohio, Pennsylvania. I don't view, especially Pennsylvania. I don't view them as being anything like Wisconsin. Yeah, there's a huge swath of rural area, just like we have, but New York has that too, and they're of course always blue, right? But I think that there's been very different approaches to some really big issues. So like Walker, for good or bad, went after the very strong teacher union. So things were too far one way, and then they probably went a little too far the other way when he came in. And other states had different approaches to these things. Michigan, they have the marijuana. They have the marijuana.
They have the dreaded pot needle.
They had the referendum that you told me sounded like it was relatively binding, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We need more referendums like that. So anyway, kind of I don't know if I'm approaching your question at all, but yeah, I don't think we're similar to any other. I think Wisconsin's unique. I think if anything, we're more similar to Florida.
We are definitely northern Florida.
Which has no redeeming characteristics, because the redeeming characteristic of Florida is the weather's nice
Yeah.
most of the time.
I mean, we got
outside
the
of hurricane
Packers,
season, right?
but
right.
we don't have Disney World.
I'll take the Packers.
That's fair.
Yeah, most of the time. Sidebar.
So governor's races were really interesting.
Were they?
I think so. We had several flips and several close races, Florida being one of them.
Yeah.
The state I'd really like to look at, though, is Georgia. Georgia's
Wow.
been the hot button state.
I don't know if that was interesting more than just politicians being evil.
Yeah. And the race is pretty much in Brian Kemp's favor.
Yep.
Which is pretty disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
But okay. And this is a tough thing, right? Because I forget the name of the lady that was running against him. But
Stacey Abrams.
Abrams. Okay. I mean, regardless of how it happened, we have to stop this idea that if you don't like the results, you just get to question it. I mean, we have our own issue with that, right? But like, I don't like the fact that she implied like it was going to be a long, hard slog, and she might not accept the results. And maybe I only heard a blip of it and misinterpreted that. But
Well, still a lot of it's going to end up going to the courts due to the controversies of it. You know, with the voter rolls being purged, they didn't get to settle a lot of that.
right.
So that's all still up to interpretation.
Yeah.
But just on principle, Brian Kemp paints a very undemocratic view.
So it's funny you say that because, and I want to talk about the Florida referendum too, in the same vein. When you talk about principles, what are the principles that we want? So Republicans will always say, you broke the rules, you deserve life in prison for whatever rules you broke, you should never get to vote. And out of principle, I think they're saying there need to be consequences and that you need to reward good behavior and punish bad behavior. On the other hand, I think we've shown that that's really not working. But on the other hand,
and even in the case like Florida, if you don't know what we're talking about, they passed the referendum to allow the vast majority of ex-felons the right to vote. Though I did read that murderers and people who are convicted of sex crimes are excluded.
okay. I don't understand why those would preclude you. You served your time, you're out. I don't know why those should matter.
I don't know, but that still leaves the vast majority.
Florida
of
is
cases.
definitely Wisconsin South.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be Wisconsin South. Not
Right,
as
I
big.
flipped that around on you.
Nice. First of all, that's huge. And first,
Yeah, it's a step.
it's a step. And you know what? That
didn't
should be
know that.
nationwide. That should not just be a Florida thing.
Right. I mean, you live here. You deserve to be represented. It's so hard for me to even understand the other viewpoint. I feel like I articulated it like there need to be consequences, but you had the consequences. That's what the sentence was for.
Yeah.
If you served your time and you were convicted, that's what that's about. If you're out, I actually think you should get to vote in prison. I understand that's probably a bridge.
A little bit more controversial. But I agree with you.
But I mean,
They're still citizens. We don't strip away your citizenship. So
don't
why
know.
do we strip away your right
we allow
to vote?
senior citizens to vote, and
We allow Elliot to vote.
Well, right. I mean, we allow students to vote. People that are not like what you'd consider to be productive members of society. They're either retirees or students, right? So they get to vote, as they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't get to vote, but like I fail to understand why everyone doesn't deserve representation. That sounds like what we fought the Revolutionary War for,
and
and Civil War for that matter.
well, it's a shame because whenever something like that comes up, you have the reasons they say they're against it and the real reason.
Yes.
The real reason being that groups that like ex-felons tend to vote more in one direction.
That is ridiculous. You know what? All of those ideas are very short-sighted and short-term in nature.
Right.
Because you're gonna just brew this discontent that is just gonna come back and kill you. It's just gonna happen. Same thing with gerrymandering. Like these are short-term solutions for your actual problems. You're not paying attention to both parties, by the way. They're not paying attention to the things that people care about, or the things they should care about, especially.
And for those Democrats who did get victories in this election in states that they've complained about gerrymandering, right?
Yep.
It's now time to, put your money where your mouth is. And instead of redistricting to benefit yourselves, get things to the proper solution, whether that be, an independent council or, a committee or whatever the right decision is.
Everybody talks about Iowa, and I forget, do they do it algorithmically? Or
I think it's algorithmic.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the way to do it.
Right. Whatever the right answer is. But, it's time for those people to, prove that what they're talking about is serious. Like in Wisconsin, let's say. Granted, we are not necessarily at that point where some other states are. We have a Democratic governor. We'll get back to that. But our legislature is still controlled by Republicans.
Yep. Which is, you know what? Like, if we have to have parties, I want them on opposite sides all the time. I don't want them doing anything, because all that means is they just spend money. When both parties agree, that's even worse. Whenever both parties agree, that is the worst. I am so against everything they both agree on, which is almost everything, by the way.
I guess we should get into Wisconsin specifically now. Let's talk about that governor's race first.
Yeah.
First thing, very, very close race.
Yep.
And especially early on, like the final-ish numbers we have now show a little bit more of a divide. But throughout the entire race, they were neck and neck, sometimes within a few dozen votes. So that proves once again, your vote does matter, folks. Right?
In Wisconsin, your vote counts for at least 2, compared to the rest of the country. I mean, almost any other state, except for maybe Florida. In Wisconsin and Florida, if you don't vote, you're an idiot. Like, honestly, you shouldn't vote. If you're so stupid that you don't want to vote, you totally should not.
I really think that it was an interesting race because I feel like Wisconsin's issues in our state race are going to be a lot different than the national agenda. Guaranteed, one of the biggest thoughts in my head is one of the deciding factors is the single word that Elliot and I have talked about a lot that begins with the letter F.
I thought, do you have the explicit tag on this show?
Oh, not that one. Foxconn.
Right. But I usually have another F attached to Foxconn. Yeah. As an Apple fan, that hurts me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole Foxconn thing. So my 2 cents on the election, neither party got my vote for governor. Neither of the two.
No.
For multiple reasons. One, Phil Anderson actually showed up and joined us on here.
I'll have you know that I did not vote for Phil, but I did consider it.
You're a terrible person.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think Phil was a great guy, and he ran a really good campaign.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he, whatever. There are things I disagree with him on, but way more. I would agree with him way more than I disagree with him, and because he disagrees with both of the other parties, I think more people would actually favor him. But whatever. So it wasn't my fault that whatever side you're on, that Evers won or Walker lost or vice versa if things go to court or something. But because the Green Party actually had as much turnout as Phil did, which was very surprising to me.
Elliot and I were joking about that because we were discussing the election as it was happening. I'm like, oh, you're just a spoiler vote,
right. Right. That makes me so mad because it's that kind of talk that makes people not vote because they're like, well, if I can't vote my conscience, then screw it. I don't care. Right. And that's not the attitude we want.
No matter what, vote for the candidate or
honestly,
whatever that you.
I don't understand primaries. Why don't we have 10 candidates for governor? We have 2+ million people voting. We can't come up with 10 candidates, and why can't we have 10 candidates on the ballot? I don't understand.
I also think we should use a better system than just first past the post.
Right. Well,
get it so you can rank your choices.
But that'll never happen because the two parties like it the way it is.
Of course they do.
Yeah. I mean, they can. It's
that's
always,
probably the one thing they're in true agreement.
Oh yeah.
On
they may say they want to destroy the other one, but it's just like when Microsoft bailed out Apple in the 90s. It's like, no, Microsoft actually needs Apple because otherwise then they're going to be a monopoly and then things are going to change really big time for them, right? Like the two parties, they need each other and they need to be close to 50-50, and they love that.
I think young people definitely came out a lot in Wisconsin.
Everywhere.
Yeah. But I think they really made the difference here in Wisconsin, in this case.
I don't know. I don't know what the actual demographics were. So when I went to vote, it was all gray haired people. And my hair would be gray if I didn't dye it too. So, so I'm not being ageist here. I'm one of them. Everyone was 40 or over when I was there.
I heard a lot about that election in particular. Particularly, I did see a lot of ads for both of them. Right. There was a lot of money in that race.
In the governor race.
Yes, in the governor race.
Yep.
Interesting enough, talking about other races in Wisconsin, I saw so much anti-Tammy Baldwin ads. I don't think I ever once saw or even heard about anyone seeing a pro-Tammy Baldwin. There was very little. Actually, I think I saw one or two.
No, there were so many ads on both sides there. It made my brain bleed. And it was every.
First of all, I am so sick of political ads right now.
Well, because it was those two, right? It
Yeah.
was the Senate and the governor, and I'm like, oh my God, shut up! I understand frequency matters, right? I understand the whole marketing thing, but enough is enough. I don't watch almost any TV, and it was just nonstop. And then I'm online, and then the ads are repeated, and I'm like, oh my, why? For one thing, why are you targeting me with the ads? You're wasting your money.
Right.
I'm an informed person, and I'm not going to vote for either of you. So
Kind of like whenever I see a car ad.
yeah, precisely.
Yep.
Precisely. Yeah. So we talk about the big the big Google and the big Facebook tracking us and knowing too much about us. They don't know enough about us. They're terrible.
You and I had a discussion last night about that and whether or not either candidate would do anything about Foxconn, right?
I don't think they will.
And you said
And
no.
they have to.
And
They won't.
I agreed that nothing would happen.
Nope.
Right. And I particularly cited, it would be an uphill climb to do anything about it now that we've already agreed to it.
Yep.
But I got to thinking about it,
Yeah?
thinking about other examples. And then I remembered back, 2010, 2011,
Yeah.
whenever it was. It would have been 2011, when we already had an agreed upon proposal for a light rail system.
For the super train?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our governor just said no.
Right.
So maybe,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's going to happen.
But so Walker would have had too much pride to go back on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Evers, I don't think, has enough backbone.
Or support.
Who doesn't support it? Unless you're just a party line, card carrying Republican.
That's the problem.
At this point, who are you that you blindly support this?
It became a very partisan issue. Not because I think if
you could have been in favor of it initially if if it was a good deal, right?
Fundamentally, it is one of the worst deals we've ever made.
But this isn't an opinion. This is a fact. It's the worst deal in U.S. history.
Yeah.
We
are spending billions of taxpayer dollars.
We are a tiny state. We only had 2 million people vote.
It's only
billions of dollars. $1 billion is $500 a piece for every voter.
I love how
that's crazy talk.
I love how every single time we get new estimates of how many jobs it's going to create, it goes down.
It goes.
What are we down to 2,500? Yeah. And then Foxconn's us going, by the way, we're automating everything anyways, which you and I called a year ago was what they're going to do.
I'm like,
and we're thinking about just bringing in Chinese employees from China.
I mean, it was a sucker deal if you're talking about jobs. If you're talking about the halo effect of I always hear about how Walmart kills small businesses. I think that's mostly BS. They cause some gentrification. It's a movement around, right? When there's a Walmart built, there's an ecosystem of businesses that kind of go around a Walmart, right? Mm-hmm. Foxconn could have the same kind of thing. If depending on where it gets built, there's an ecosystem of businesses that can kind of go around it. Other manufacturers that give support materials and restaurants for the employees, whatever, right? So there's an ecosystem. There's an argument to be had that there's some economic development. That's the whole idea with the TIF. We have all these TIFs in Green Bay that they will produce additional development. It usually doesn't pan out, at least not to the degree that the taxpayers are sold on. But in this case, the amount of money is just too high. There's no justification of it.
How much is it? Couple billion?
God, I don't know. It makes my brain hurt.
Think about what else we could be doing with that money. Off the top of your head, let's say it's, I want to say $2.5 billion.
Yeah, give it back to the taxpayers.
Okay, let's say we can't do that. What would you do with it?
Put it in a rainy day fund.
Rainy day fund, that's a good idea. How about using it for technology? Better infrastructure, maybe?
Maybe.
Fix our roads?
So some short-term road improvements, yeah.
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 Put it back into education,
No.
Our UW system could use some help.
No.
Wow. Elliot just hates using money for things.
Yeah, give it back to the single mom who's working 2 jobs. How about that? That's what I want. I don't like stealing money from single moms who can't afford to go to college because they're working. Yeah.
Yeah. What else happened? Wisconsin we had our medical marijuana thing here, right?
Right.
And that passed
In Brown County specifically.
in Brown County specifically.
Yeah.
And that passed with 75% of the
3-1.
vote?
Yeah.
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 Sure wish we had that recreational one on the ballot.
Yeah. But you didn't join me for the county board meeting where those happened.
I think 10,000 people could have showed up with not a single one of them against it, and it still would have been exactly the same.
It didn't matter.
Nope.
Like the vote, the people didn't matter. It mattered to some. There were some definite, like Eric Hoyer and.
I think the outcome would have been exactly the same, though.
Yeah, because just some people they're blind.
However, we get from the medical.
Yeah,
we get a bunch of data now, so we're gonna look, per district and whatnot.
Yeah.
What the percentages were, and I think some of those candidates who are so against it.
Yeah.
Are going to realize, the vast majority of my area is in support of this.
Are we
You
getting
think-
a breakdown for? I don't.
Probably,
Think we will.
I'd assume so.
I don't. Where does that information come from? I've never seen that.
I don't know.
I know. I don't think so. I don't think that.
I would assume they would.
Where does this go? I don't think so.
Are we just going to trust one single number saying these?
I think we
people?
should because I was there for the presentations. The people that were yes, there were some potheads. Okay.
Yeah.
But most of the people who spoke, including myself, I'm not a pothead.
Right.
They are either people who need it for medical reasons or who are articulate and informed.
Mm-hmm.
The people on the other side, it was just scare tactics, and they were wrong.
It's scare tactics and racism.
They were factually wrong.
Yeah.
So they were using things probably because they're racist. It's hard for me to necessarily attach.
Maybe not the
intent,
specific people, but the concept of keeping it illegal.
The whole concept of marijuana illegalization in the first place was racist.
Exactly.
Yeah, crazy black men.
And then we got to give a shout out to our neighbors to the east. Michigan passed their recreational ballot.
Yeah.
We mentioned that briefly earlier.
Yeah.
But good for them. And it's going to put a ton of pressure on their neighboring states to really reconsider. But
I really think of Michigan as being Colorado, since we're putting directions, Colorado East.
I thought it would be Minnesota, but
Minnesota's
very blue.
It's very blue. So they're similar but different to Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
So like the whole Twin Cities area, that's super blue, right? But then most of the state is not the Twin Cities area. The population, of course, is, right? So it leans blue, but most of the state is not that. So their representatives are not. Their legislature isn't always just full on blue for everything. So whereas we're super divided, like we live in a community where our community is 50-50, a county and a city that are basically 50-50.
I think when it came out to, do you feel it's fair to use the governor's race to determine Democrat versus Republican generally in the area? I think it's worthy enough.
I think because we are so politically charged in Wisconsin, I think that is true.
Okay.
I think we can.
So Brown County, I believe, in general voted 60-40 to Walker.
Yeah.
Which even that is, for Wisconsin, pretty in the middle. You know, there are some counties where it's going to be like 90-10 in one direction.
I don't think that's true anymore. I think it's considerably closer to the middle throughout the state.
I think there are some, especially some rural counties already, when I was looking at the numbers yesterday, were 80+%.
Maybe 80%, but not 90%.
And then you have Dane County, which was, like 70-80% the other direction.
Yeah.
But
Same thing
the
with
majority
Milwaukee.
of counties are going to be within that 40-50% range for each candidate.
Yeah. And I think if anything, we're moving more towards like the middle on that, but everybody's digging in. So we're requiring people to take sides here. And
that's in general, like countrywide.
Yeah. But we're ground zero for that.
What's interesting,
and most people can't talk like this. I don't agree with, the people you vote for most of the time, but we can talk about things.
Yeah.
And we know what we disagree on, and it's fine. And I might try to convince you, or you might try to convince me, but I don't have to. I like you, Jacob.
Aww.
And but aside from that, even if I didn't, like, that wouldn't be the reason I wouldn't.
No.
Right? But that we have so much of that, and I don't get it.
That's what I hate. I hate the partisanship of it. You can go and vote straight ticket Democrat, Republican. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But if you're at the point where you hate someone because they think about something different than you do, that's ridiculous.
Well, especially when it's 90% the same.
Right. And I'm sure you saw it in your feeds too yesterday when this morning, I guess, when Scott Walker lost.
Yeah.
People saying, "Oh, that's so horrible. That's so screw the Democrats, screw them libcucks."
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
First of all, there's very little that's going to change with a Democratic governor in Wisconsin. Almost nothing.
Yep.
At best, it's going to change how the census works because we need governor approval for maps for districting in our current broken system.
Seems good to me.
Second, who
Deep thought here.
Who out there knows someone of the other party and can say, I like that person regardless? There are so many people on both sides now. I know people in my life who are diehard liberals who say, I hate all Republicans.
I know.
I know Republicans who say, I hate all Democrats.
Yeah.
That, more than anything, needs to stop.
Well, I mean, I think the people I know in both parties, I think they think I'm part of the other team. So it's maybe I'm in a different situation.
You're the guy at the Packers-Bear game in Bucks gear.
Right. Or Cubs.
Or Cubs. No. You're out there wearing New England.
There you go.
Patriots.
I'm wearing Patriots. They both hate me. Yeah. Or even worse, I'm wearing the Vikings.
Oh,
to
no.
a Packer Bear game.
I was going to say that at first, but I didn't want to insult you.
No, I would never
bad.
do that. I would never do that. Right. But that's the thing. It's all in fun when it's football. But it's so different when it's politics because it's like some people do treat it like it's a sport, and that's fine if you can. I'm not gonna go like.
I mean, I treat viewing the election results like a sport. Like it's like, oh yeah, that's fun. Election night, drinking a couple beers, having some.
I honestly viewed the difference between Evers and Walker, especially since in the last few days leading up to the election, they both said, "No, I'll cut taxes too. No, I'll have education."
Right,
they're the same.
But first, you do agree that it's probably a better idea to have a Democrat just so we don't have all three things controlled.
I would say, I think things work better when there is a better distribution of ideology because honestly, when Democrats are in control of everything, all they talk about is guns. And when Republicans are in charge, all they want to talk about is abortion. I'm like,
kind of like,
figure things out.
Companies, when you have one company dominating everything, nothing gets done.
Well, they start listening to their own hype, right? And you can use your Apple analogy there or Google analogy. Like they start thinking they can do no wrong, and I'm like, no, you don't have all the right ideas. You had some good ideas at one point. That's what got you where you are. Appreciate that, and cultivate some new ideas, and communicate with other people from the other. You got to bring people into the fold too. You can't just put walls up, metaphorically or literally.
Do you have any final thoughts about the
Are we
election?
done?
Yeah, we've been running so long. Got so much to talk about.
Well, you know what? Maybe we'll have to do a part B next week. When the stuff is actually.
We also have to start gearing up here for more elections because the mayoral race here in Green Bay is getting.
So if you're watching and you're a mayor candidate, you should totally talk to us and we'll have a conversation here. For good or bad, I mean, I guess it could work against you but I feel like if I'm talking to you, I feel like I'm a pretty softball interviewer. So I think it's fine.
And you're not biased towards anyone in particular.
Right?
Well, everyone has their own biases, but you'll be nice.
You know what?
And play ball.
I mean, there's enough people that are running that I don't think everyone has a bias, and of course you have preconceived notions and some prejudices going in, right? But it's kind of an open playing field right now. So I think it'd be good to have everybody on.
Yeah,
I think it'd be great. So yeah.
All right.
So to close things out, please hit the little bell on the YouTube. I know that's cliche, but that gets you alerts when there's new episodes. Please go onto the iTunes podcasts and give us a rating. That helps raise some visibility of the show. And
join us on Facebook.
Yeah.
Line Partisan community. Tell us about your thoughts on the election. It's
Right.
It's nice having a bunch of talking heads talking about football or whatever we just discussed.
Yeah.
But we want to hear what you think.
I very much do, and we have actually very good conversations on there. And there are people that are stalwarts on both sides, but I think most of the people involved in the discussions there are open-minded and they like discussing it. And they like thinking about new ideas. So join us there. Yeah, thanks.
See you.